Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm the inspirational Andy Murray from WhatCulture. And remember, bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
And this is the news.
So first up, we've got a potential update on WWE's plans for both the WrestleMania 35 main event and the WrestleMania 36 main event. This is all very exciting.
A year in the making. This has never been done before.
In the making. So WWE, this is all according to Shagger Dave. So WWE's key plan, apparently, with the upcoming Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair match, is that the WWE want to prioritize using this one to set up the main event for WrestleMania 36. And Dave goes on to write that that will probably mean a Lynch versus Rousey singles match or another Lynch versus Flair singles match, all of which have been pretty great. So what reason do we have to complain about that? Absolutely none. Now, the interesting part about this is, of course, that Rousey is rumored to depart WWE for a little bit after WrestleMania 35. We don't know how long that will last. But looking at those two matches and thinking about WWE's plans, you've got to think that they have their eye on Becky headlining 2 years in a row, which is very exciting.
It is exciting. The only thing I would say is, you know, if you'd have said to me last year, we're going to get Becky versus Charlotte versus Ronda in the main event of WrestleMania, I'd have probably been a bit like, eh. I remember them saying, oh, Ronda's going to main event next year with Charlotte, and I was like, does she deserve to? Like, I always find the main event should be whatever is arguably the hottest storyline when it comes to
the biggest mover.
January and April. Yeah. So whilst I am excited, and I have no doubt that if you do this correctly with this year's main event, and this isn't the same, I suppose, as the Rock John Cena main event where they sort of did nothing in the first year to build to the second year. But I think there's definitely scope for doing it, and I'd be excited to see it. But I would say, I don't think they should say, we're going to make sure we set this up for next year's main event. Just say a match for next year, because, you know, next year, Kofi Kingston could be the hottest thing, Elias, it could be literally anyone on that main roster.
Anyone.
Who could be the hottest thing in wrestling. And if you've already said this is going to be the main event, I get it, there's many main events in WWE's eyes, but the match that goes on last should be the hottest feud match storyline in WWE.
At that specific time. Yeah, and to be fair to Meltzer, you know, like a lot of people like to rip on him and say, oh, you got this wrong, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't report things like this as fact, and he does say in the write-up that Vince McMahon will probably change his mind about 7 or 8 times between now and then, because that's just what he does. And he also notes that it's quite dangerous to make assumptions, because this year's top 3 programs, this Raw Women's title, the Universal title with Seth Rollins challenging, and Kofi Kingston in the WWE title match, all of these bouts were essentially decided by the fans. They were crowd-pleasing, fan-servicey moments, good examples of the reality era done well, and also good examples of WWE listening to their audience. So who knows where we'll be a year from now, but they could start making moves.
Yeah, you could, for the first time ever, have Roman Reigns primed and ready for a WrestleMania main event that the fans want to see, and you've already said that this is going to be the main event. But we'll wait and see.
We'll see how it goes.
Plans change and all that. But speaking of the WrestleMania main event, another update from Dave Meltzer regarding that. There is no plans, apparently, from WWE to merge the Raw and SmackDown women's titles. But the stipulation, apparently, for the main event will now be whoever gets pinned loses their title. So if you pin Ronda Rousey, you win the Raw Women's Championship. And if you pin Charlotte Flair, you win the SmackDown Women's Championship. That arguably makes sense on paper, but it just seemed very confusing.
It's very odd, isn't it? Like, I get it, like, if you get pinned or submitted, you deserve to lose your belt. But doesn't that mean there's, like, no incentive whatsoever to pin Becky Lynch? Like, what is the point there? Like, if Charlotte has a choice, Becky's down, she can win the match, she can leave with her title, but if she defeats Ronda, she could become a double champion, winner takes all and all that stuff. It's quite a weird one. I do get it, but I think that perhaps casual fans might look at that and go, what? Why?
Now, people might say we're being a little bit hypocritical here because we have said that having the SmackDown Women's title on Charlotte was a good idea, but it does seem to sort of rubbish it, that it's just a prop in the Raw Women's title match. But, you know, I can see it. You have Charlotte trying to steal a pin on Ronda away from Becky with her thinking, this is it, this is going to be becoming the, as you say, champ. But I feel if you just had the Raw Women's title on the line, you'd still have the exact same tension.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just kind of an odd move. Like, I wasn't in favour of the way that WWE put the SmackDown Women's title on Charlotte, particularly the way it undermined Asuka. But this does seem to be like the kind of thing WWE would do, doesn't it? Like, we have a simple solution, just have the Raw belt on the line. Now let's make it as complicated as possible.
For me, I'd just merge the two titles. I think with one women's title across both brands and the women's tag team titles. You've got more than enough to compete for, but this is WWE and they'll do what they want.
They will do what they want. And this is a very women's wrestling heavy episode of the news. We have another story here concerning Evolution. Now, we already know that Evolution isn't currently part of WWE's 2019 pay-per-view schedule. Stephanie McMahon earlier this month refused to comment on it. So basically, at the moment, there's not going to be one. There's not going to be an Evolution 2, despite the first one being a critically acclaimed success for WWE, if not necessarily a business one. Now,
one of the best pay-per-views of last year.
I think so. Like, in terms of the in-ring, the atmosphere, everything, it was spot on. Dave Meltzer, again, in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is reporting that the reason WWE don't want to hold another Evolution this year is because Ronda Rousey. Her status is obviously unclear. They don't know if she'll be around for the time of year that they might be looking to schedule that show, and therefore they don't have their biggest ticket-selling asset. Now, business-wise, the first Evolution pay-per-view kind of slumped. It struggled to start with. All your kind of online trolls, like your Billy Batties and all that, were looking at it and going, haha, it's not a draw, blah, blah, blah. Well, that all changed when Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella was announced. Then ticket sales picked up, and it became more of a business success. So it's understandable that they wouldn't want to do it without Ronda, but could you now argue that Charlotte and Becky are bigger stars and maybe would drive ticket sales a bit more than they did last year?
I believe so. I think fans would like to see it. I think if your argument was, well, not many people were that interested until Ronda got added, well, if Ronda brought more eyes to that product, then arguably more people would want to see that again. I think what they need to do this year, if they are going to build another pay-per-view, is make storylines that make more sense. They sort of just chucked a lot of stuff in for the sake of having women's wrestling matches, whereas you can have some really interesting feuds developing and you've got enough for them to fight over. You could have not only the Raw, SmackDown tag team titles matches, you could have someone maybe defending their Money in the Bank briefcase on there, and you can just set up a real blood feud between anyone, someone coming up from NXT.
Whoever the heck you want.
I think there is scope to have another one, but it makes sense not to promise a date and then have to renege on it if you can't bring stuff together.
Totally agree.
Let's move on to our next news story of the day, which centres around the New Japan Ring of Honor G1 Supercard that is, of course, taking place on the Saturday of WrestleMania weekend.
April 6th, baby.
And Dave Meltzer is reporting that the original plans for that was going to have Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight title, with apparently the plan being Okada regaining the title that he lost to Omega.
Yeah, Dominion last year. That's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, that would obviously have meant Kenny Omega defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Of course, Tanahashi defeated Omega and took the IWGP Heavyweight Championship because Omega was buggering off to AEW. Tanahashi had a very short run. He dropped the belt to Jay White. Now we're getting Jay White versus Okada. And again, Okada is expected to beat White in that main event and regain the prize that he held.
Screw you, Bullet Club.
For about, bloody Bullet Club, blood off. It's going to be a great match regardless, but I think a lot of American fans would have really popped for the potential 6-7 star classic that we could have seen in MSG. Either way, as someone who's hopefully going to the show, I am really looking forward to it either way.
I'm going to the Hall of Fame, so I think, it looks like an amazing card regardless. Even if you don't have Omega versus Okada, look at that card. We reported it a
it's
week
stellar.
or so ago. It is absolutely stacked.
It's phenomenal.
And I think the match for the IWGP Heavyweight title is going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And even if it's not fine, we're getting Naito versus Ibushi and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tanahashi.
Ambassador, you are spoiling us.
What more could you want, really? Togi Makabe. Anyway, next story. Shall we move on?
Yes, let's move on.
Let's do it. Goldust. Pro Wrestling Sheet published a report last night stating that Goldust, their sources, who have obviously got this wrong, said that Goldust's WWE contract had expired and that he was in the process of waiting out his 90-day no-compete clause before moving on elsewhere. Now, of course, the internet, being the internet, went, ooh, AEW, Cody Rhodes is his brother, all this stuff. No, this is all rubbish, apparently. So obviously Ryan Satin and his group have been misinformed. It's a shame, but it happens. Goldust has tweeted a pretty strong rebuttal that I'm going to find for you here, that I should already have on my screen.
He does not hold back here, is he? He is not a fan, let's just say, of the people who report stuff, ourselves included.
I mean, he probably hates us as well. So basically, he tweeted last night saying, I am still under contract with the WWE, and everything that is being said online is just talk and complete bull. This is exactly why I hate smart marks. So. Goldust still with WWE.
That's us told. He's definitely going in the Andre now then, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he is.
100%.
I love-
First guy out there. Hello, wearing an AEW t-shirt, ripping it off to reveal a WWE t-shirt.
I'd be here for that, and I love Goldust. Please don't hate us.
No, exactly.
We like you.
We like you. We
Mr.
always check our
Ronald.
sources and sometimes just make them up. Pro Wrestling Sheet has also reported the upcoming WWE pay-per-view and just show schedule for 2019. An interesting thing to read there is the Saudi Arabia show that is set to take place on the 1st of November.
1st of November.
1st of November, but as it stands, and as has been previously reported, there isn't a Saudi Arabia show set for May yet. Now that may well happen, but no date has been confirmed just yet.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I think it was Fightful who first reported that WWE were going to hold this show in Saudi Arabia on the 3rd of May, but there's absolutely no sign of it on this listing, and it's important to note that this listing is an official court-filed document as well. So WWE just aren't going to include misinformation on that deliberately. So it's kind of hard to know what to make of all this. I mean, WWE are obviously going to try and announce their Saudi Arabian shows as last minute as possible because they don't want the backlash, they don't want the controversy. I think we can probably say with a degree of certainty that the 1st of November show, that's probably going ahead. That is almost a year to the date since Crown Jewel.
And what a show that was.
And what a show that was, banter show of the year. It's in the same venue, the King Saud Stadium, something along those lines in Riyadh. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the May show.
Very interesting.
I'm sure we'll have lots of content on it, whatever the case.
Oh, don't you worry, we will. Let us know your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWW if you want to tweet them at us. Let's get on to them now. First question comes from the Wrestling Lie Detector.
Oh my goodness, we better not speak nonsense.
Yes, well,
almost
our
swore
answers
there.
to these
Sorry.
questions. They say, presuming WWE pull the trigger on Kofi Mania, what's next for Daniel Bryan? He's put together one of the best heel runs ever. What do you see from him in the
100%.
future?
100%. And the unfortunate byproduct of Kofi potentially winning the title is that you're taking it off a fantastic heel champion. Bryan's been brilliant since he turned. I think that if Kofi does win, and to be honest, this might be how I would book it if I was Vince McMahon. I think if Kofi wins, Daniel Bryan just wins it back at the next pay-per-view. Kofi Kingston does not need a long run. He's been the underdog throughout this storyline. He's a babyface. Babyfaces are often more compelling when they're chasing
100%.
rather than holding. I think, what's the next pay-per-view?
Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank in May. I think like a nice 3-4 week title reign is enough for Kofi Kingston. He gets his WrestleMania moment. He gets to call himself a former WWE champion. Bryan gets the belt back. He smokes it. He holds it for as long as he wants.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that, and I do much prefer baby faces having the Money in the Bank briefcase. Although, if they decide not to go for that, I could very easily see him having a rematch, Daniel Bryan, this is, losing, and then getting the Money in the Bank briefcase and making some sort of hemp briefcase as well. I'd love to see that.
I am 100% in on that.
Next question
Try
comes...
smoking that, brother.
Next question, I'm sure he will. The next question comes from Drew Call, who says, should Becky get some colour during the main event at Mania? He says, I think it would add to her crowning moment.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this with blading and so forth yesterday. I think that if she is going to get some colour, probably don't do it hard way.
Please don't do it hard
want
way.
to see Ronda Rousey like bludgeoning her with MMA elbows or anything like Brock Lesnar does. I think it'd be a good way to add to the match.
If I'm her, I'd just do it anyway, even if they said don't do it. What are they going to do? Fine. Yeah.
you're
You've
gonna-
got a new contract.
You're going to find someone who has a new contract and is your biggest female star now that Ronda Rousey's kind of turned heel. It'd be an interesting move. I could definitely see them doing it, particularly as they've been going very hard on sympathetic beating up Becky with the knee injury and so forth. It would be a good way to do that without falling back to the old knee trope.
We always remember that image of her leaving in the crowd. She looks so good. If she could do that with a blood-covered face at the end of
And the
WrestleMania.
belt.
Love it. Right, final question comes from The John on Twitter, who says, if Seth beats Brock at Mania, do you think they should use Brock as a scout for superstars to aim for, kind of like the Undertaker streak?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good idea. Like, use him sparingly, like the Undertaker, as a special attraction who comes in every now and then. Sometimes you face Brock and you lose. Occasionally you face Brock and you win. I think it's a really good idea. Whether or not Brock will go for that remains to be seen. He's always going to go what's best for his bank account. If that means UFC, he'll go to the UFC. If that means WWE, he will stick with WWE.
And arguably, if they do that, you could have him do both. Like he could concentrate for the
Sure.
majority of the time on this UFC.
Sure.
They're obviously looking eventually, fingers crossed, to build to that Daniel Cormier fight. And if either before or after that, if you could just pop up for an appearance, say at a SummerSlam,
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. And I think it makes a
I'd be
lot of
here
sense,
for it.
and it gets him away from the title picture nicely.
Yeah, if you could have him wrestle on up-and-coming stars as a means of putting them over, even in defeat, I think it's a really good role for him.
Right, let's move on to today's and finally, and great news if you're a fan of Asuka to report, because WWE Shop Deals just yesterday tweeted this.
I know what this is.
Yeah, they have finally arrived. Get your Asuka Championship replica side plates from the WWE shop. You can get them now. Stick them on your replica belt, celebrating Asuka being champion after she lost the title 3 days ago.
This is so WWE, isn't
The
it?
most WWE
Unreal.
thing ever.
Unreal.
They're here. Get him. She's been champion since December. Get your. Oh no, she's lost the belt. Oh.
Yeah. But hey, our live show sold out, so that's good.
Hey, yes, thank you to everyone who's coming to see us at Stand Up New York. We should probably go and plan some stuff for that now, actually.
Yeah, maybe we should.
The vague promise of banter might not be enough, but Simon Miller's going to be there, so we'll be fine. Let us know your thoughts on Asuka's replica side plates and all of today's news stories in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can tweet your Twitter questions to us at WhatCultureWWE. Well, actually, you can follow us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow our lovely editor at Adam Cleary. My thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Bye. Gang.